November. Chapped lips and seasonal eczema. It also felt like an Eevee day. November, ice, Glaceon, an Eevee wearing the skin of another dead Eevee. There's something there. Anyway, I've got 7 books. 6 are from November, and 1 is a book from October that I didn't mention in my last roundup for October, so it's here now. 7 books. Let's go. We'll start with the October book for obvious reasons, and it is actually going to be my next video review, and I did mention it in my reading roundup of October, and that is Love in the Big City. This is written by Sang-Yong Park, and it is translated by Anton He, who has done just a splendid job here. This is a book that I have already read. I just finished it recently. I'm going to do a video review, look forward to that. It is published by Tilted Axis, who always do outstanding work with choosing their books, promoting their books, and designing covers for their books. The cover for this is very, very eye-catching. You've got a packet of Marlboro cigarettes, some blueberries, and some ice. You find out exactly, when you read the novel, what that's all about, and it's another charming aspect of the story. Sang-Yong Park here has written a novel about love in the big city, quite literally. Love in the Big City is a queer Korean story about a young man who is just living his queer life in Seoul. It begins with him in a very, very close friendship with a girl. The two of them are at university, they enjoy sleeping around and just living as hedonistically as possible. And then she grows up, for lack of a better phrase. And he does and doesn't, and you see his life morph and change as it goes. I won't tell you any more, look forward to my review, but this is a fantastic queer Korean novel. This is probably my most anticipated novel of November, The Easy Life in Kamasari by Shion Miura. Shion Miura is famous for writing a novel called The Great Passage, which came out quite a few years ago. I owned a copy of that book, and for the life of me, I don't remember if I read it. I remember buying it when I lived in Dubai, like 8 years ago, and I don't know if I read it. I looked the blurb up just recently, and it rings a bell. Very strange. Whatever the case, Shion Miura is a pretty big deal, and we have her new book here. This is also translated by Juliet Winters Carpenter. I have reviewed a few books that she has translated. She is a really prolific, very, very well thought of, and very talented Japanese to English translator. So again, that bodes really well for this book. The Easy Life in Kamasari sounds just like the kind of thing I want to be reading right now. It's a Japanese novel, if I didn't mention that. It's about a boy from Yokohama who is coming of age. It's a coming of age story about him being enrolled by his parents in this forestry program in a place called Kamasari. It's a village at the foot of a foresty mountain called Mount Kamasari, and he is there to do this forestry thing, but he feels like he's missing out on city life until he finds himself slowly falling in love with the village, its people, its festivals and traditions, and the forest and the mountain itself. And it just sounds like the most charming and sweet Japanese tale. I cannot wait to read this. I'm definitely going to be doing a dedicated review, so look out for that very soon. This is a book that I have been so excited to talk about, but I have to be honest, I was so excited when I was sent this, and then I misplaced my copy for like a month and I could not find it. And then really weirdly, a few days ago, it turned up on my TBR pile of review copies that I always keep to the side, as if it had always been there. And I really don't know what happened there. Was it like I couldn't see it for ages, like it turned invisible? Or it was secretly replaced there by my partner after she read it and didn't tell me? I feel like that's something she would do. Anyway, whatever the case, this is Weird Fucks. Weird Fucks is a novella by Lynn Tillman. It is a collection of weird fucks. Am I going to get demonetized for this? I don't know how monetization works. That's all I know about it. It sounds reminiscent of The Collection by Nina Legere, which is a really great French novel. This is about a woman who's going around New York and parts of Europe and engaging in fun sexual experiences. But I don't think it's about one woman. It might be several different protagonists, but it's just about sex and our sexual encounters throughout our lives. And that's it. That's it. That's all I know. It's a really, really tiny little book. I am very curious about this. When they sent us this copy, it came with a little badge, and I immediately put that badge on my jacket, and it just says Weird Fucks. I can't tell you anymore, but I'm really excited. As you can see, it's also got an incredible cover. This is a beautiful painting. I really, really enjoy it. So if nothing else, you want to buy this book just to have it in your collection, but I'm sure it's going to be a very funny and strange experience. I'm looking forward to it. Charco Press. Anyone who's watched this channel for any length of time knows that I have basically a love affair with Charco Press and everything they put out. I adore everything they do, and this month I think they have 2 books. They definitely have one, and then the other one's either out in December or November or is already out. No, it's not already out. I actually can't remember. Anyway, let's just talk about these 2 books. They're both coming out from Charco Press before the end of this year. This one is the one I'm very excited about. I have already made the bold claim that I have found my book of 2021, and nothing is going to beat it. But this author, Selva Almada, wrote my favorite book of 2019. Selva Almada is an Argentinian author, and she is my favorite Argentinian author. She wrote The Wind That Lays Waste, which was translated by Chris Andrews, I think, and it was my favorite book of 2019. Last year, we had Dead Girls, which Annie McDermott translated, I think. Sorry if I'm wrong, can't remember. Dead Girls was more non-fiction-ish, journalistic fiction, I think it was called, and I liked Dead Girls, but it was harrowing and difficult to read, whereas The Wind That Lays Waste was like a Waiting for Godot, atheist versus Christian encounter out in the wilderness. It had a very gothic vibe to it, and I loved it, and it was my favourite book of that year. And now we've got something that actually sounds kind of similar to that, The Brickmakers. Oh no, it's just called Brickmakers. Brickmakers is the story of 2 young men who are both dying in a theme park. They've gotten into like a knife fight, and they're now just dying on the ground of this abandoned theme park, and each of them is hit with visions as their life flashes before their eyes, and these visions mostly pertain to their individual fathers, and so we flash back to their youths and their lives and how they got to this point. It sounds brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I am almost definitely going to do a dedicated review on this, because I will read everything Selva Almada does. She is my favourite Argentinian author, and this is a great cover. This is just so exciting. If it's half as good as The Wind That Lays Waste, it's going to be a contender for some of my best books of this year. I don't know if anything will top Tell Me I'm Worthless, but when Selva Almada brings out a new book, I pay attention. The other book from Charco Press is this, Byobu by Ida Vitale. I am not sure if this book is out in November or December. This is what I was talking about before. I literally can't remember, and I just haven't looked it up, and I don't know where my phone is. Anyway, I'm very curious about this one. I'm just going to read you the blurb, because this sounds strange and wonderful. Byobu's every interaction trembles with possibility and faint menace. A crack in the walls of his house, marring it forever, means he must burn it down. A stoplight asks what the value of obedience is, what hopefulness it contains, and what insensible anarchy it defies. In brief episodes, aphorisms, and moments of spiritual turbulence and gentle scrutiny, there reside a wealth of habits, worries, curiosities, pleasures, peculiarities, and efforts to understand. The Wedding Party by Liu Xin Wu. I'm really excited for this because I don't get enough Chinese fiction in translation, and this is being translated by Jeremy Tieng. Not is being, has been. It's done. Anyway, this is actually coming from Amazon Publishing, and I'm really, really excited to read it. The Wedding Party is set in a single day, in a courtyard in Beijing where a wedding is happening. It's about a small community of people who are all celebrating the wedding of this one young man, and his mother is kind of planning this whole thing and urging for it to be a big success, and it is exploring this particular time period. It's set in 1982 at this very crucial moment during the Chinese Cultural Revolution, and so it is political, it is historical, and it's giving us a glimpse into this one moment in time. I really love stories that are set at a very brief moment. You know, a novel that takes place over a single hour, an afternoon, a day, a very short span of time. It gives you that feeling of urgency. It gives you that feeling of watching a moment or looking at a photograph. I love that. So The Wedding Party is about a wedding party. That's it. But you're getting a glimpse into 1980s Beijing, and that feels very valuable. Jeremy Tieng is a fabulous translator. I cannot wait to read this. And Other Stories sent us this months ago, and I've been sitting and watching and waiting patiently to read it because I wanted to experience it around the time when the hype was building, and I'm sure the hype is going to start building now. This is Somebody Loves You. It's written by Mona Arshi, and it tells the story of a young girl who goes mute at a very young age. She has a mother with a mental illness. It is not clear what it is. I haven't read the book yet, so I don't know. The mother comes and goes, and then eventually stops. And this young girl has chosen silence. And it's the exploration of how we tell our stories, or choose not to tell our stories. So it's a very mother-daughter relationship. It's about mental illness and mental health. I'm very, very curious about this. It's a pretty slim book, and I hope to read it in November, and I'm curious to see what kind of momentum this book builds, because it sounds very, very curious, and it's got some praise from some big names, and other stories are putting out some great books, especially this year. They've really done a great job, and I think this is the last book they're bringing out. Keep an eye on this one. Okay, I think that's all of them. One book from October, that'll be my next review, and 6 books from November. At least one of these I'm going to review for sure. No, 2. At least 2, yeah. You're going to see at least 2 books from this list reviewed by me, but keep an eye out for all of them. They all look fantastic. I am very excited to dip my toes in and see what gets revealed. I'm so glad we've got more Charco books coming this month, and a Japanese book and a Chinese book before the end of the year. Oh, I'm so glad I get to read another Chinese novel before this year ends. That's always good news for me. And subscribe for books.